Hello, everybody. Welcome to Current Climate. You're listening to WPCX 97.1 FM in Clinton, South Carolina, on the campus of Presbyterian College. I'm your host, Brennan Carroll, and this is my co-host, McHenry Brewer. I'm excited to be with you guys again. We got our audio and video situation all set up. It's working, and the camera battery isn't going to die in the middle of my show like it did with Community Climate.
Back to more stable.
Yes. Yeah.
Back
exactly.
to more stable environment.
Yes. Exactly. So, there's a lot of big news. Okay, I'm just gonna preface it with that. The Epstein files, all of it, the rest of it got released. But before we get into any takes, any opinions, anything like that, of course, we need to get into our opinions disclaimer. And it goes something like this. This program is produced by students at Presbyterian College in Clinton, South Carolina. Views and opinions expressed on this station are those of student producers and do not necessarily reflect official views of the college. Thank you for listening to WPCX. Okay, all right. So we're gathered here today.
Sorry, I'm making sure that I don't get any more of these messages while I'm doing this serious
it's all
business.
It's all good. It's all good.
I'm ready.
Yeah. So, as you guys may have heard on our, not on our last show, but one of our previous shows where we discussed the Epstein email release, which is sort of like a partial releasing. Not everything got released. This is like the final...
Biggest one yet, right?
Yeah, literally, yeah. It was like thousands upon thousands of files have been released. And, this happened on January 30th, by the way, to be more specific.
Which was, what?
It was
Friday?
Saturday? No. Today's
Friday,
the 3rd.
maybe?
Wait, hold on, let me think.
Let's see, 2nd, 1st, it was Friday, I think.
Yeah, it was Friday, you were right, it's Friday. It's Friday. So, they got released on Friday, and the everything that's been going on has just been insane after this. Not only was it found out that, a lot of people were involved in those island parties. A lot of people, a lot of different politicians. Well, one can speculate that they were in these parties just by the photos where Epstein was with certain people. A lot of different politicians, Prince Harry, a lot of politicians, a lot of political figures. Prince Harry, for instance, former Prime Minister of Israel.
Is Prince Harry a UK?
Yeah. So a lot of different individuals. And I don't have like the list of names right here. I don't have, I couldn't give you every single name on that list, but I will tell you something that's been kind of crazy. And if I can get our audio to work here, I'm going to try to plug in the audio to my laptop. We're going to try this for the very first time, live on air. We're going to see how this works. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to play this. I found there's a lot of people. It's pretty split. There's a lot of people that are denying that there were underage children involved. There are people that are obfuscating, and that are just like, it's like, that are really just pointing at one political party as opposed to another. Just like a lot of fighting, which is to be expected when something this big releases, because the left is like, Trump's in there, the right is like, Bill Clinton's in there, Yep. And so that was to be expected, of course. And it's been insane. But what I really want to focus on is there's a group of people that are really trying to minimalize it. They're trying to minimize the problem, or they're trying to make it very superficial. And so there's sort of two different sides to this. All right, let's see if this works. Uh-oh. Did it already play? Okay. Let's have complete silence.
Oh, is it plugged into the
Yeah, it should
audio?
be. It should be plugged in. I didn't mean for it to play. We're gonna play it over the air. Let's see if this works. Okay. Okay. Complete silence for a second, just to see if this works. Okay, it doesn't work. Unfortunately.
Probably just put it on the computer audio.
Yeah, we'll do it this way for now. Or
Probably
actually, hold on. There's one. Hold on. That was my fault, probably. Let's try this. Let's run this back. Yep, there we go. Okay, it's very high pitched though. Let me lower the volume just a little bit because I think that was way too loud. Don't want to destroy people's
earlobes.
Exactly. And for those of you that are watching this recorded, I'm going to add an audio and a video clip instead, so you don't have to watch most of me figuring this out. But listen to what Ben Shapiro has to say about the Epstein files. Maybe I should hold on. We have subtitles here. Okay. So essentially, what Ben Shapiro has, just to sum it up for you in case you couldn't read any of this stuff, we really got to work on that. That's something I do want to include in the show, is more like audio clips and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So then people don't think I'm just like making stuff up. But that was Ben Shapiro basically saying that in the files, it was just exploitive material of children that was downloaded like on a computer or something. Which didn't necessarily mean that Jeffrey Epstein was bringing these children in to participate in some very bad things with politicians and stuff like that. And so the reason why.
So is he basically saying that it just didn't?
He's saying that nothing happened on the island.
Okay, so he's saying that. Is he saying that he's interpreting what's written in the files as that nothing happened on the island? Because what was actually in the files?
It was a lot of different transcripts from mostly emails. There were flight logs as well.
Of people going to the island?
Going to the. There were also photos and videos.
Okay. What were in those videos and photos?
It literally ranging from anything to what Ben Shapiro did describe, where it was like inappropriate acts taking place, to just like normal like random photos that meant nothing.
What were the videos of the inappropriate acts?
They were.
If you can say it on there.
Well, I don't think I can. But
was it like sexual or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there was actual video proof.
Yes.
Okay.
And so, Ben Shapiro was basically saying like, this didn't happen on the island. Basically just that it was Jeffrey Epstein acting alone, and that all of the island parties, everything else, had nothing to do with underage people. It was just normal parties, and that Jeffrey Epstein by himself was doing things bad. And I think, and this is speculation, but I believe that the reasoning behind this sort of rhetoric, what he's saying, I believe he's saying this because he's trying to minimalize it, and he's trying to get people to not dig farther.
Right.
Right, because this is very awful. It's very awful and it's very serious. But there's a whole nother level. One person that does something to children inappropriately, that's awful.
Mm-hmm.
But then we're getting into deeper. We're getting deeper. We're getting into more dark things.
Yeah.
More honestly scarier.
That's the word
things.
I would use. Deeper.
Yeah. Where it's not just that, because if Ben Shapiro is like, well, it can't. If Ben Shapiro says, it's just Epstein, nothing else, then, you don't have to answer for, okay, if there are politicians in there and they're doing things that are bad. He mentioned a couple people that were in like a blacklist or whatever. He mentioned a couple people that were on the list on some of the flight logs and stuff, but he didn't really do it justice. Because those were, the photos and videos that were released were also just that weren't grotesque. They were also just about like this person was hanging around Epstein, this person was hanging around. You know what I mean?
Can I ask a question just for clarification?
Yeah.
So, in the stuff that came out on Friday,
yeah,
was there any like farther video or photo evidence of like any of those names, like Prince Harry or what did you say, the former Prime Minister of Israel?
Yeah.
And who else did you say?
I can't remember all the names. There was another guy. I cannot pronounce his name, but he is an intelligence officer actually for the IDF.
Anyway, besides the point, were there any of those names, like, was there any photo or video evidence of any of those people, like, engaging in illicit activity?
Well, to my knowledge,
because I don't actually know. I haven't looked into it.
Yeah.
So.
To my knowledge, I don't know. Because obviously, the FBI would probably be selective about like.
Oh yeah.
Releasing
I'm sure,
like.
Yeah.
So, we don't really know.
But there wasn't anything.
I think there
specific that came out incriminating them. Or was there? I don't know.
It's a little tricky because you can't really you can't publicly release a lot of these because these kinds of crimes, it's very sensitive. You can't. Those are the kinds of crimes you can't release.
Right.
You have to heavily censor when it comes to video and audio, right? But they do have photos of Epstein with people, which is in the island and in those
mm-hmm.
areas, with people that are clothed and stuff like
just
that. With underage people and stuff like that.
But I guess what I'm asking is was there any photo or video of Prince Harry or someone like that with an underage girl or something?
No. Well, not Prince Harry or anything like that. No.
Was there any other?
That's another problem I wanted to address too. Is that there's a lot of people that
I'm just asking these just simply for clarification.
No.
I just don't know.
No. I know what you're saying. What I was going to say though was that that's another problem is that there's a lot of people are photoshopping. They're editing photos to somehow I guess not exaggerate, but they're trying to make their own. They're trying to make their own evidence, pretty much, with the Epstein case, which also makes it hard because you can't. It's very hard to verify a lot of things. There's a guy, Ryan Dawson, for instance. He put out an article with images of a girl that was with Epstein or whatever. But as it turns out, he photoshopped it. It wasn't actually a photo of this girl and Epstein, and it was a photo of Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Which, of course, that's not defending Epstein. He's still a disgusting human being. It's not that doesn't disprove anything.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
Of course, but it's just people are really hungry for answers, and when they're hungry for answers, there are a lot of people that want to feed that. They want to feed that hunger, so they want to really just throw random things into the mix that ultimately are needless. There are plenty of email. There are plenty of emails and things like that we can literally reference, that can and photos and things like that aren't edited, that aren't fake, that we can point to and say, yeah, this guy did bad things. But people are doctoring it. They're creating evidence of their own, and it's getting in hand. So it's hard to verify anything right now.
Yeah,
but
yeah. So, I guess, I mean, okay. What is sort of... Okay, so it seems to me that there's sort of two approaches that people are taking. And one is like, Ben Shapiro's approach, which is basically saying, you know what, like, this is, he says, yeah, Jeffrey Epstein was a horrible human being, and he was a creep, and he was a sex trafficker, but, it doesn't go much deeper than that. That's the Ben Shapiro approach.
Basically,
And
it's like he's a solo actor.
He's just like, this is all Epstein. He's the guy that is, he's the sex trafficker. He's the bad dude. It is all just about him. That's the Ben Shapiro approach to it. And then there seems to be another approach, which is more like, there's something deeper here. There's something deeper. There's people that were involved, people that were blackmailed. You could go whole different roads with that. There's something deeper.
Yeah.
So I would say there's two main roads being taken here. There's the surface level approach that focuses solely on Epstein, and then there's the deeper approach.
Yeah.
Would you say that's about right?
Yeah, I think that's true.
There's two approaches going on, basically.
Yeah.
And so what we know from the files that were, or from the additional information that came out on Friday, is we got a few more names, right?
Yes.
And just sort of emails and photographs sort of linking these people to Jeffrey Epstein, is that right? Like, not really, not that's less of like incriminating evidence of like illicit activity, but more just flight logs and emails and pictures with Epstein. Like, is that basically...
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
And,
And
it's so, like, it's so rough, because...
I honestly, to be honest with you, I don't know what to think about it, but I will say this. There is something that really sort of puts me off about this whole thing, is that, maybe it's like a few months ago, but like, at first when they said, like, Pam Bondi was, like, going to release the files and everything.
Yeah.
And then there was all this, like, anticipation and everything, and it was like, you know what, actually basically they said, like, there's no list, right?
Yeah, they literally said there's no files.
They said there's no files,
Mm-hmm.
Despite, that being one of Trump's big campaign promises, to be transparent about what Epstein stuff to the public and release the information, whatever. And then there's no files, and then, obviously people are upset about that, and then now there is sort of files, I guess. So now there is information that just wasn't there a few months ago. There was just no files. Is that basically right? Like, there was no files, and now all of a sudden there is files.
Yeah.
That's what... you can correct me if I'm wrong, but, like, that's, like, what puts me off about this, is that at first they came up to the American people empty-handed.
Yeah.
With nothing. Said there's no files, and then now they're releasing this stuff about it. So it's just like, it's not consistent. That's where it's just is weird to me.
Yeah, it is weird.
But look, maybe the Ben Shapiros are right that it's surface level, and maybe the people who think it's deeper are right. I don't know. You know more than me about it. I don't really know about it. But I do think it's weird, the inconsistency. I do think it was weird that they said there's no files, and now all of a sudden, after all the public scrutiny and everything, now there is files.
Yeah.
And there's more names. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's like, it's weird. It's very weird.
To me, it's strange. And as the government shutdown was going off, or I should say was going on, not going on, but as we were facing the government shutdown, I began to, I started thinking, because this was around the time the Epstein files were supposed to be released, after postponing it, after denying their existence, after recess for Congress. this was around the time, and then government shut down, and so I see like this bipartisan effort to really delay it.
A lot of people thought
and
that's
across the political spectrum, right and left. I mean, we both wanted them released.
It seemed like a bipartisan thing to have them released.
Yeah, but it was a bipartisan thing amongst the people.
Yeah.
But amongst the politicians, it was a bipartisan thing to keep it locked up. So, where I'm at and why I think it is deeper is because if they're why are they trying to hide it? If it's only him, if he's the only problem, and a select, just a select few people.
Yeah.
No. I think it's bigger because I think if all of Washington is so concerned about the files being released, and there's so much of a delay until it was pretty much inevitable, until the base kept begging for the files to be released, until there was a petition that got the required amount of signatures to vote on the release. After all of that, it took fighting tooth and nail. It took all of that to finally get the files released. I think there is definitely a bipartisan effort. There was a bipartisan effort to keep it locked up, and I think the reason why is because it is deeper. And I think there is, another thing I want to talk about the Epstein file is not just like the list of names, because you can probably find the list of names. You can probably find how many times different politicians were mentioned and things like that. But what I really want to touch on, which I think like not a lot of people are really talking about, is that there are like people are being not just the blackmail operation and things like this.
Yeah.
But I was looking at the files and I found that Epstein had a lot of presence in an anonymous message board called 4chan.
Mm-hmm.
And by presence, I mean very, very much controlling the conversation. And when you see that, like online, what a lot of let's go back. Let's go very far back. This is gonna sound conspiratorial, but I promise I'm just drawing parallels. I'm not like, But let's go back to like when when we first developed this tactic. It was during the Cold War. We were up against the Soviet Union, and it was an information war really, and it was a war of ideas, right? So with the Soviet Union, it's easy. Because they didn't have the First Amendment.
Yeah.
Very closed off. They just made it illegal for papers from the United States to come in, right? Mm-hmm. But for America, it's a little different. CIA can't just like ban all publications, and they can't just take control. Yeah. At least not, they can't be forceful like that. Mm-hmm. There would be a revolt. So what did the CIA do instead? After World War II, they funded various groups, right-wing and left-wing. Communist, socialists, whatever, they would fund those groups as well as more right-wing, anti-communist groups in an attempt to contain the political discourse. Mm-hmm. They didn't want people to become Stalinists because that's who the CIA saw as a threat. Yeah, Stalinists. They didn't want USSR sympathizers, right? Yeah. Which, makes sense. The United States is against the Soviet Union. Makes sense. They're the rival superpower of the time. Yeah. So instead of outright being completely anti-communist, they funded both sides in order to contain them and to gatekeep the real, like the Stalinists, from the mainstream left-wing party. And so it was sort of an attempt to de-radicalize people, right? And the reason why I tell you this now is because similarly with Epstein's involvement in these message boards like 4chan and things like that, it wasn't just I say Epstein, but it wasn't just Epstein. He had friends in the political sphere, right? Yeah. Friends and also people he blackmailed. And so the idea was to sort of contain a movement, 4chan notoriously was very right leaning, extremely pro Trump, you know, limited immigration, all of these things, and they were really, I mean, they were pretty extreme in those sort of things, in sort of like patriotism, things like that, right? Very extreme in that sense. And then, you know, political influence. Basically, 4chan was meant to contain these ideas that people were getting before Trump. Patrick Buchanan, actually, around that era, the paleoconservatives, right? They were trying to sort of redirect that energy that was being reinvigorated, right, through the Trump campaign. A lot of people say that Trump is sort of like a revival of the old Buchanan kind of politics, and so it revitalized this way of thinking. That's not just like, you know, the Republican Party isn't just like, we want lower taxes. It's not just about that. It's about national security. It's about having a nation. You know,
yeah.
It's about more than just the GDP, right? And so Trump brought that back, and you know, with these came all these young guys, 18, 19. Well, you know, the youth was energized in 2016.
Yeah.
And so it came all these young guys and stuff, and of course an establishment that sort of and at the time Trump sort of broke a dichotomy in that moment, very moment, because you had the Bush dynasty and you had the Clinton dynasty, and so you really were getting there was no alternative, right?
Yeah.
And that was dangerous, and a lot of people were scared of that. They were scared of this like paleo-conservative kind of person, like this Patrick Buchanan kind of person.
Yep.
They were scared of him, which is why once they realized how powerful the internet was, particularly with anonymous messaging boards like 4chan and stuff like that, because of course at the time, you know, we didn't have Elon's Twitter, right? At the time, it wasn't so friendly to various ideas. So you basically, that's all you had, was like 4chan. And from my understanding, there was like Reddit as well. That they, believe it or not, Reddit used to be more centrist than it is now. There used to be.
What is Reddit now? I don't even know. I'm not on Reddit. I just I end up finding, like, I talk to some friends of mine that are on Reddit. A few times I've been on there, I find it to be very vulgar and
I try to stay away from that stuff. This is just like, you know, this is what I've come to know. This is what I've researched, and you know, it used to be more central. There used to be a subreddit called the Donald, and it was like a pro-Trump subreddit.
Yeah.
But anyway, once they saw the power of like social media in that sense, this is when they really put there was a very strict, it was like, not a ban, I wouldn't say banhammer, but this is when everything got confined. This is when 4chan, for instance, this is when they had interest in it and they wanted to contain it. And so they would start pushing.
You're talking about, this is when Epstein was present on this chat or whatever?
Present in the sense that, like, he had some intelligent, well, because he was on a real kick in like 2010s, well, from the early 2000s to like the 2010s and stuff. He was on a real kick about getting into intelligence and things like that. So he was talking to like Peter Thiel about like Palantir, which was like intelligence gathering and data and stuff like that, and he was also trying to get involved in through social media like 4chan. So he wanted to contain the conversation, and so he really he transformed this forum from like a we're paleoconservatives, we're this, we're that, and kind of transformed it into a more digestible, I guess you could say, a more digestible place where it's more about like we're just generally libertarian. We're just generally this. We're just generally that.
Okay.
You know, very de-radicalized
that's what I was
and
gonna
very
say. De-radicalized.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And so okay, hold on. Sorry. Let's do our station ID. I kind of hit the 30-minute mark.
Is there a water
Is there? I don't know if there's a water fountain. There's probably. Yeah, I don't know actually. So we just got to do our station ID real quick. Just a quick reminder: you're listening to WPCX. That's 97.1 FM, or you can download the WPCX app on iOS or Android. We're on the campus of Presbyterian College in Clinton, South Carolina. All right. So, like I was saying, what was I saying?
You were talking about his Epstein trying to de-radicalize.
Right. It's basically. Yeah. So
sorry.
Don't. So like I was saying, de-radicalizing agent. I really need to check their chat. I feel like I gotta. He served as a de-radicalizing agent, and a lot of people are really using this as ammunition. That's what I've noticed with a lot of this. It's very, very political. It's so politically charged, and not just politically charged. It's also just, I don't know what you would call it. It's just charged. You know,
yeah.
It's just everybody's taking their own interpretation, and they're like, and like I was talking about with doctoring evidence, with like faking evidence and stuff.
Yeah.
They're like they're taking pictures of like. So at one point, Epstein ended up visiting the Vatican to talk to the Pope.
Yeah.
And they cropped it to make it look like the Pope was at the island when you get like the full image, it's like, oh, he was at, he was at
fake.
Yeah. And I'm not a Catholic, and I have disagreements with Catholicism and things like that, but I think, you don't have to fake evidence. Like, that's kind of crazy, You don't have to fake evidence in that
I feel
regard.
like there's just so much garbage out there now. It's like, especially with the Epstein stuff. There's just so much. You don't even know it's real.
Yeah, it's so.
I mean, you literally don't even know it's real anymore, and like, especially on environments like these Reddit or Twitter or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just.
It's unfortunate.
And it on top of all of this made up stuff online.
Yeah.
You can't even trust major news outlets anymore. Mainstream media is a joke.
No,
you can't even trust that, and you can't even trust the Twitter, the Twitter culture, X, whatever. You can't even trust that anymore because like everybody's faking it with AI and whatever.
Yeah.
So. It's really, really hard to know what to believe.
Yeah.
Really is.
And
really hard. I sympathize with anyone like me who's just like, what is going on? Because like, you just don't know what to believe anymore.
That's true. It is true.
And everything's charged, like you say.
Yeah.
Politically charged, you're just charged.
Yeah. Just like.
So, yeah.
And what I have what I will say about the mainstream media, though, is that. Part of it is there is sort of a blessing, in a sense, there's sort of a blessing to the fact that when you go to CNN, you know what their bias is automatically.
Yeah.
And so, to some extent, that's a good thing, because you can be like, okay, I know what their bias is. I know what Fox News' bias is. And so
kind of meet in the middle.
Exactly. Yeah, to a certain extent, you can.
Yeah.
But I'd also go to the extent of like, go to every, like, pretty much every biased media source you can. There'll be little seeds of truth, and there'll be a lot of lies, but there'll be little seeds of truth. And you just kind of, like, cross-examine, you see what's consistent, and a lot of it, really, you have to come to your own conclusions, and that sounds, a little scary, because, you don't want to go crazy with conspiracy theories or anything like that, but you almost do have to kind of come up with your own conclusion based on based on the research that you made.
It's hard. I mean, it's hard because you have to stay grounded, and you have to stay in your lane. Like, you can't, like, you gotta keep it in perspective. You gotta look at what's actually true, what's been proven.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can't go on all these rabbit holes that of all this, you know, just speculation and, you know, and just, or even just untrue. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard because you just don't know what to believe. And it's like, you have to scratch and claw to find, like, actual stuff that is true now. So,
Yeah. That's, yeah.
it's
100%.
definitely, I mean, yeah. So,
Yeah.
but, and the Epstein issue, you know, it's just like, I have no idea what to think about it. I don't. Because, like, I don't know anything. No one really knows about this Epstein guy. He could have been something that no one will ever really know. Like, it could have been boring, like Ben Shapiro says, but it also, maybe he was, like, secretly running the world and no one knew it. It's like, it gives me headache to think about all the different outcomes it could be. It really does. Like, and no one will ever know, because no matter how much Trump or anyone else pushes for the truth about this stuff, it's just, I don't, at least not anytime soon, I don't think anybody's going to get the full story, or at least something that gives them those answers that they're so hungry for.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel you, man. It's so, yeah, it's just, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty world shattering.
And it's just coming from me, like someone that hasn't looked into it. I just go by, you know, what about the surface level stuff, but I haven't looked into it like you. But, like, it's just I for someone like you that's actually looking into it, like how do you go about it? Like, yeah, because there's so many different things out there. Like, how do you go about it?
I mean, literally, you just got to read the files. I mean, you know, I mean, obviously, I can't get to every single one, but, you know, just read the files. You know, read the emails. What you can also do is,
where do you get, like, the files?
well, on the official government site, you can pick up the files.
Like on WhiteHouse.gov or something.
I can't remember the name of the site. I'll tell you what. I'll link it on the. I'll link it in the description.
Okay.
I'll link it in the description.
Cool.
You guys have to pull. You guys have to go into BlueTube once we release this video, and you gotta look at the description.
Go in and look at what has been provided, and
yeah, I mean that's what I ended up doing with the Kennedy files. You know, I didn't read all.
Oh yeah.
I didn't read like.
Was
all
it really
thousands of them.
was it the Oswald guy? What happened with that? Was it what was the deal with that?
It was. That'll be for another show.
Is it deep?
It's pretty deep. I'll tell you. I'll give you like a brief.
Do we know the truth about it, or?
Still
we
not
won't
completely.
go off on a tangent.
Yeah. I'll just say this. It involves the Russian mob, Israel, Egypt, France.
Oh, so it's just
Russia.
Okay. So it's a whole casserole of people.
Yeah, just a lot of people.
Yeah.
CIA.
Yeah, it's just like a whole bunch of corruption and.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah. So.
And that's actually in the files.
Yeah, it's in the files. Yeah, that is in the files.
Complicated.
Yes.
Well, would you like to pivot? Talk about
Canada. Yeah.
Would you?
Yeah.
Or
Let's do
have
it.
you said everything that you?
Yeah, I've said everything. Yeah.
So, pivoting. I have been really following this the U.S.-Canada relationship, and recently what's been going on. I'll be honest, it's really concerning to me. I mean, I'm anxious about it. Like, it's not good. Basically, a lot's happened over the past, year, I guess. Of course, the tariffs, and then the tariffs, the 51st state threats, that was way back a year ago. Just for people that don't really know about what's going on, just a quick recap. When Trump came into office, he put tariffs on Canada and threatened to, threw out little comments about making it a 51st state and stuff, and then that freaked everybody in Canada out. Pierre Poilievre, the Conservative Party leader of the opposition, lost the election, which he was otherwise supposed to easily win, giving Prime Minister Mark Carney the victory, the Liberal Prime Minister. And so he's been Prime Minister, and he's promised to make all these deals with Trump and, figure out all the trade, remove the tariffs and figure out a stable trade agreement with the U.S. He hasn't done any of that. And then recently he's also, now that he can't find a stable agreement with the U.S. to trade, he has signed an agreement with China, reducing tariffs for electric vehicles to be brought into Canada. So that's basically the catch-up. So that's like what's been happening in the last year. But recently it's gotten even worse, because recently the World Economic Forum was held in Davos, Switzerland, which is where all the world leaders go and say their little spiel and negotiations happen and things. And Mark Carney, Prime Minister of Canada, made a big speech and basically said that the world order, there is a new world order, and we don't treat the world for how we wish it to be, we treat it as it is. And it got a lot of attention because he basically, in his speech, without directly saying it, his speech basically jabbed at the U.S. and basically said that, the U.S.'s tariff policies on all these countries is disrupting the world order or whatever. And so he basically went on to justify his trade deals with China, all this stuff, disruptive communist global superpower and everything. So it's gotten bad, and then after that, Trump took away the Prime Minister. Trump made a comment, said Canada only lives because of the United States. He said it's a block of ice. And he took away Prime Minister Carney's invitation to the Board of Peace. And then he threatened 100% tariffs on all Canadian imports if the deal with China goes through. And then Mark Carney said, we have no intention of doing a trade with China, we were just reducing tariffs. And he tried to make it sound like, after his big grand speech that he made about, all these, diversifying away from the U.S., all the middle powers need to come together and we need to have strategic autonomy and all this stuff. After all this big speech, he's like, oh, no, we're not doing trade. And then, so, I think there is a lack of common sense and decency on both sides. I mean, on the one hand, Mark Carney is not even trying to cut a deal with the U.S. and fix the tariffs. He's just trying to make trade deals with other countries. Maybe it's smart, but, Canada's supposed to be our best friend, and we're supposed to treat them with unwavering respect, and we're supposed to have free trade, in my opinion. Trump is the one that started all this mess. Prime Minister Mark Carney wouldn't even be in office if Trump hadn't made the tariffs and all those ridiculous comments a year ago. And he continues to make all these outlandish threats, and now he's also threatening a 50% tariff on all Canadian aircraft if they don't. He's threatening to decertify Canadian aircraft if they don't make American. I gotta check that. I'm not really gonna say that because I don't know everything. But it gets worse every day. More and more tariffs threatened every day. Canada, meanwhile, is doing horribly economically. Grocery prices are through the roof. Gas prices are through the roof. Crime. It wouldn't have happened if the election didn't get totally flopped on its head last spring. Canadian airlines are cutting flights every day to the United States. The United States are cutting flights to Canada on their airlines. But there is hope. There's hope because recently, the leader of the opposition, Pierre Poilievre, big fan of him, he had a leadership review on Friday, and he won it overwhelmingly. He won it 87% of the conservative vote, which beats the record for any leadership review in that party. Last closest one was 2005, when Stephen Harper had 84%. He had 87% on Friday. So he's like the guy going forward for the conservatives to try and be prime minister. I think if he gets elected as prime minister, things will change in Canada, and the relationship between U.S. and Canada will rebuild. A lot of people are pessimistic about it. A lot of people think that, I've heard a lot of even the Canadian ambassador says that the relationship between the United States and Canada will never go back to where it was. I don't think that's true. Porter Airlines also doesn't think that's true. Because Porter Airlines is the only Canadian airline that is expanding flights to the U.S. right now instead of cutting them. They think that there's going to be a big rebound in U.S.-Canada travel. They're one of the only ones that think that. I respect them for what they're doing. The reason I care so much about this, the reason I care about Canada so much, even though I'm an American, is because I care about America. And I think that if we let Canada move away from us and make friends with China or European countries that don't like us, or Russia, if we let Canada make friends with other countries, we got an enemy next door.
No, yeah, I get what you're saying.
And Canada, I feel like it's just morally wrong for Canada to be our enemy. There is no other country in the world that shares as many values and cultural similarities and just overall similarities to the United States and Canada. They got strip malls, interstates, speak English except for one area.
We don't talk about it.
Yeah, Quebec. They have pro sports teams. Heck, we even have the NBA, the NHL, and the MLB. They all have Canadian teams in our sports leagues. The culture's the same. Fast food, interstates. It's the same culture. It is. It's the same culture. And I don't know why Trump treats them as a punching bag.
No, so,
I just, it bothers me, and I don't, it's also, self-motivation here. I like to travel to Canada. I want to be able to go to Canada. You know what I mean? That's not important, really, but I'm talking about the benefit of the U.S. and Canada, but, I think, it's just, it's not good. It's my biggest complaint with Trump. I don't have a lot of them. This is my biggest one. I think he's just treating Canada like a punching bag. And I don't see why he's doing it. He's done a lot of great things as president, but this is one that I just can't get behind.
Bro. Sorry, I got distracted. Got a little distracted. I still heard you, but...
What do you think about all this? Do you think I'm making a big deal out of nothing? Or do you think, what do you think?
So, no, I get where you're coming from and everything else.
Because some people say, McHenry, you're worried about nothing, but I just can't. A lot of people think that I'm just
Well, no, I mean, I get the sentimentality. I can't speak. The sentimentality of, you want Canada to be an ally because, they're right next to us. And they do share a very similar culture, but I think it's just very difficult talking about relations with, Canada and stuff. Because there's also... On one hand, I get your point about the tariffs and everything else, but on the other hand, I do think that Canada needs just a little bit of humbling in some aspects. A lot of the identity surrounding Canada, it's just sorry, someone's staring at me. But a lot of the a lot of the national identity of Canada is trying to distance itself from America because we're so similar.
I don't like that either.
Yeah, and part of it's like this superiority complex they have in Canada, and I think that a little bit of humbling's good, you know. I don't think it should escalate as far as it has, maybe. But I think ultimately all this bickering. I hope it'll lead to, you know, a good outcome. I hope maybe like a mutual understanding of each other, and maybe more of a mutual respect for each other. I think.
I really hope so. I mean, I've just been looking at like statistics. Like Canadians are massive. In the last year, there's been a huge drop in the amount of travel from Canada to U.S. And like, you know, there's a lot of Canadians think a lot differently about the U.S. than they did before all this. And there's been a huge drop in travel between Canada and U.S. and now they're going to Europe and the Caribbean. I hope you're right though. I hope it'll all smooth over, and I hope that Canada will finally get a leader that's actually going to do good. I like Pierre. I think he's great. I was bummed when he didn't win. But I don't live there.
No, I get
care
it.
about that. I don't care about a lot of countries. I don't. Maybe that's heartless, but like I do care about Canada though. I do care about the United States and Canada. Those are like the two countries that I care about, and it's bothering me because right now they are not. Their relationship is fractured. It's really fractured right now. So I hope it gets better. Because I think if we work together with them, they got a bunch of oil and natural resources, and you know, we can work together and build stuff with them if we just allow it to happen. You know, if we get rid of the trade barriers and all the threats, and if we drop all that, it could be a great friend to us again. I mean, we've had a great friendship with Canada for decades and decades and decades, and it's worked out well. I think we can go back to that, and especially with Trump's, you know, policies of like all this, he's making a lot of good, you know, stuff here at home, and if only he would allow Canada to be a part of that, then like, you know, you would have North America on lockdown.
Yeah, I get that.
But instead, he just sort of pushes them away and just says like, no,
yeah, I get that. Well, oh no, we still have some time.
So anyway, you can it was a lot to cover, so I kind of went a little bit fast and probably didn't catch all that. But basically, here are the highlights. Okay. Trump is treating Canada badly. A bunch of tariffs, a bunch of threats, a bunch of comments. He even like posts like stuff on, like calls the Prime Minister Governor Carney. Like
that was kind of funny. Honestly, that was kind of funny.
It was kind of funny, and you know, I'm not the biggest fan of Mark Carney, but like I still like you gotta, you know, that's been happening. Tariffs been happening for the past year. You know, of course, like the stuff happened with Greenland, and I think a lot of people in Canada were like, "Oh, are we next?" Like a lot of people were like, "Oh, are we next?" Like, but like in Canada, people here in the United States, most people are not really thinking about it as much because, like, you know, our country is the United States is thriving. You know, from an economic and standpoint and everything, we are getting better every day, I would argue.
Yeah.
But Canada's not. So like people in Canada are thinking about the United States every day.
Yeah.
Right. But like people in here are just thinking about, you know, we are thinking about Epstein and ICE and stuff. But Canada's thinking about us.
Yeah. No, I get that, and that's another thing too. Is I guess we don't really like we hear Trump talking about like 51st state, and that's also difficult for me too. Like I don't know why. I guess I just can't understand taking that seriously, but at the same time we're the superpower, so I guess it's not as threatening. Like if some other country joked like that about us, maybe it wouldn't be so severe because like we're America, like we know they can't
Yeah.
do anything. But I guess it's different because it's Canada. It's like we kind of like we overpowered. I guess I see like
For me, the problem is that it's Canada. Why is he saying that about Canada, like of all places? It's just like if you were gonna say that about like some like random like island I don't even like if you say Greenland, like Greenland.
I don't know. I feel like the thing is, like I feel like you can't really make that joke with your enemies. Like you can only really make that joke with your friend, and so with it's that it's just a little trash talk. Like I feel like Canada kind of does that. Not the same. It's not the same thing, but they'll do something like what are these crazy Americans? Like what are these crazy Americans doing? I think it's just.
Okay, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Do you think that it will ever get so bad to where Americans can't travel to Canada and vice versa?
Nah, I don't think it'll happen. It maybe, but I don't think so.
Very unlikely. You
very
think?
unlikely. Yeah, I don't think it'll get that.
Do you ever think it'll get so bad as to where like our economies aren't like intertwined kind of? Like,
I don't think. Like I mean, it's Canada. There's no way.
Do you think they'll get a conservative leader?
That one's more difficult.
Do you think Pierre Poilievre will overtake the liberal government and get a majority or minority government? They have a parliament system.
Yeah.
Works a little differently.
I think that one's trickier because the thing with Carney, with the situation in Canada and the United States, is that Carney can blame literally everything on Trump in this situation. So if he markets it right, I think. I don't know the official party names, but Carney's party.
They're literally just called the Liberals.
Really?
It's just Canada's real simple. It's the Liberal Party, the Conservative Party, the New Democratic Party. The two main ones are the Liberal Party and the Conservative Party.
Really?
Yeah, it's literally called the Liberal Party and the Conservative
Party.
Party.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Okay, that makes things so much
Democrat.
easier.
Oh, and you want to know something else? A little
What's
fun
up?
fact about Canada. The Conservative Party is blue and the Liberal Party is red, so it's flipped from.
Oh, did you know? That's how it was a while ago. I can't remember when, but that's how it was. Oh, not even that long ago. Because I remember one of my professors, he showed us a site that tracks voting and everything else, and it was made like late '90s. Like it was a really old website.
Oh, really?
And it showed Republicans as blue and Democrats as red.
Really?
It was really crazy.
Oh man. I kind of wish the Republicans were blue because I actually like blue's like my favorite color.
It is.
I like blue. Like.
Yeah.
But yeah, in Canada the Conservative Party is blue.
Yeah. But I think Carney, if he can market it right, if he can really blame Trump, I think that's how he'll win. Is if he just blames the economy problems, everything else on Trump. Because if you blame it on Trump, you're also, by association, you're sort of blaming Pierre.
Pierre Poilievre.
Pierre. Yeah. Okay. I couldn't.
Yeah, because basically he made it seem like I know we're out of time, but he made it seem like that Pierre Poilievre was just like a mini Trump. That's he successfully casted him as like a Trump-like character.
Yeah.
Which I guess Canadians didn't like because of the terrorists.
Yeah. That's gonna do it for today, guys. Thanks for listening and everything else. I have to do my opinions disclaimer again. So, this program is produced by students at Presbyterian College in Clinton, South Carolina. Views and opinions expressed on the station are those of student producers and do not necessarily reflect official views of the college. Thank you for listening. This has been 97.1 FM WPCX in Clinton, South Carolina on the campus of Presbyterian College. You've been listening to Current Climate, and in about 5 seconds, you won't be. Goodbye, everybody.